with the CPCA season well underway with the Yorkton Classic kicking off this past weekend. I'm now joined by Mr. Greg Buchanan, who is the voice of the CPCA. Greg, thanks so much for coming on and chatting with me a little bit about that today.
Thanks for having me today.
Not a problem, Bucky. Well, the Yorkton Classic kicked off this past weekend from June 3rd to the 5th. What stood out to you mostly about that 3-day weekend?
Well, I think you approach the course as the opening weekend of the season. So a few things come into play there, where a lot of drivers are looking at their spring training, looking to see what horses and where they're at. And some kind of relying on the ones that they relied on last year, and then some actually put some new horses into the fold. And so, for example, with those new ones, you're kind of looking to see where they're at in their spring training. And I think you're looking at it for the most part, a lot of drivers coming out of the weekend very happy where they're at, and they have now a weekend off before they head to Poundmaker for 5 days. So they're looking forward to that. The other thing that comes into play for Yorkton, it's the first time in 10 years the CPCA has been in Yorkton. So great to see the fan response, sponsorship response too in Yorkton. We had 3 solid days of racing there, along with the RCMP musical ride, and some tremendous crowds throughout the weekend. So it bodes well for the future of CPCA in Yorkton.
I do want to mention one thing you just said at the end there. Yorkton had the CPCA in town for the first time in 10 years. How was the fan reaction like out there when they had it over there for the 3-day weekend?
Well, tremendous crowds on Friday and Saturday, and and the response from the community too. I think they're really looking forward to the CPCA being out in Yorkton for the next number of years to come. I know there's various reasons that came into the fact that we haven't been there in 10 years, but now things are starting to come together in Yorkton, a brand new grandstand. So it looks great for the future of the CPCA. We'd love to add another more Saskatchewan shows. Like in the past, the CPCA has raced in venues in Saskatchewan like Melfort, Prince Albert, Saskatoon, and Regina. So if we can add Yorkton, add maybe Prince Albert, and add a Saskatoon show, that's the future of the CPCA, and that'll be great to see.
Of course, Todd Baptiste finished second overall in the aggregate results this past weekend. He's somebody that's done really well over the last couple of years. Can you just speak on maybe his level of just how consistent he has been time after time?
Yeah, Todd and his brother Ryan Baptiste kind of share the same barns, and not necessarily the same horse, but share the barns. And Todd is just a solid driver. A former Canadian champion, was knocking on the door for a Calgary Stampede Championship a few years ago. It was a runner-up to Logan Gorse. So Todd is one of those many drivers in the CPCA, and we talk about it all the time in the CPCA radio network, that anybody can win day money on a given night. Todd is one that's always knocking on the door for day money. Had a chance a couple of times in the weekend in Yorkton. So expect more of the same from Todd and his brother Ryan going forward in 2022.
Well, of course, now Poundmaker Saskatchewan is next on that list of the CPCA schedule this year. What are you kind of hoping to see moving forward this year with the drivers and the riders?
Yeah, I think more than anything, it's going to be a busy schedule now. As much as we have 3 days in Yorkton now, there's a week off, and a lot of drivers are going to really welcome this week off. They have 5 days in Poundmaker next week, followed that with 3 days of the Wainwright Stampede, 5 days at Onion Lake, and then 9 days of the North American Chuck-wagon Championship, with a little time off between all those shows. So it is going to be the dog days of summer, as they call it in baseball. We call that in Chuck-wagon racing, because there's a lot of days off. So it comes down to barn management. You're going to have a deep barn. You're going to have a healthy barn, and try to be, as they say, try to be fast, try to be clean every night out, which is not easy when you have a lot of other drivers kind of nipping at your heels.
Well, certainly it's going to be an exciting time for the riders and drivers moving forward as the rest of the season kind of keeps going with these races. Greg, anything else that you'd like to add?
No, just kind of looking forward to, it's a weekend off for the CPCA, but before 5 days in Poundmaker, looking forward to that. Race time on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturdays at 7 o'clock. Championship Sunday, and a week's time will be at 2 o'clock. So looking forward to that, and then looking forward, before you know it, to Onion Lake for Canada Day weekend, and then to the NACC Championship in Lloydminster in July.
Well, Greg, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on today and chatting with me about Chuck-wagons. Really appreciate you taking time out of your day to chat with me about it.
Always great talking wagons.